and blowhards who are hell-bent on stealing your money as they beg for votes. And the easiest way to do that is to throw a bunch of expensive programs at you and pretend they're free. Well, that is fraud, and it's immoral and commonplace, and it has to stop. There is nothing more corrosive to liberty than taking your property by force, and that's exactly what the federal government is doing with ballooning non-discretionary programs that gobble up the federal budget like a fat kid at a cake buffet. The president has good intentions with his new nickel plan that is challenging every federal agency to make a 5% budget cut, as spending cuts are a fantastic and necessary goal. The problem is that only applies to discretionary programs, which account for just a third of the slop and the trough, and military spending, which might not even be trimmed, eats up half of that. So what would this wooden nickel plan save? About $70 billion, which is nothing compared to the $779 billion deficit we're running in 2018. Tax cuts have helped turbocharge a booming economy, but even with low unemployment, high consumer confidence, and a bootylicious stock market that can take a good spanking and still bounce back, revenues are only up by 0.5%. You can't cut taxes and increase spending and expect the party to last, and you can't meaningfully cut spending unless you finally fuss with the non-discretionary monsters in the closet. Entitlements, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, which is an entitlement for those who draw from but haven't paid into it, they annihilate 70% of the total federal budget. Those beasts have to be tamed, but it will take brave, logical, and rare souls who are routinely blocked from making meaningful moves to pare down the sickening grab bag that's loaded with goodies that make politicians popular and countries very, very sick. And that's the memo. The federal deficit projected to top $1 trillion next year. So how do we stop this financial mess from crippling the next generations? Former governor of New Mexico and current Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate there, Gary Johnson, joins me. Welcome back, Governor Johnson.
Kennedy, great to be with you. And I'm conducting a campaign that the biggest issue facing this country is the debt and the deficit. And if we don't, I'm pledging to submit a balanced budget to Congress. And you can't, you summed it all up. You can't submit a balanced budget to Congress if you're not going to take on Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, which really doesn't factor into debt and deficit, but also military spending. It can't be done. And at a $21 trillion national debt, when interest rates go up 100 basis points, 1 point, that's $210 billion that we have to spend extra for interest only. If interest rates go back to historical norms, we're going to be spending all current discretionary spending on interest only.
Yeah, when the bill comes, we really don't have a way to pay for it. And part of the way that Republicans sold the tax bill, and I love cutting taxes. I think you can't have real economic health unless you lower taxes, but you have to couple that with spending cuts. And no one is bold enough to do it. There are very few people who are in Congress now, those rare voices who stand up for liberty, economic and otherwise, but they really get pounced on by the establishment. Paul Ryan, who has talked a good game, he uses his mouth prettier than a $20 bill. He showed up to Congress in 1999 when there was a surplus, and now he's leaving, and we are $21 trillion in debt.
No, that's you've hit it on the head. These are really difficult issues, but it is the biggest issue that we're facing. And it is incredibly unfair to young people that we're going to strap them with a debt that can't be paid. And you know what?
And they're not going to have any. They're not going to have any entitlements. You know, you're absolutely right, Governor Johnson. They're not going to have Social Security. There's not going to be any Medicare for all. Another entitlement program we can't afford when we already can't pay for the ones we've got. That no one wants to pare down.
And what's the result of this going to? What is the result of all this going to eventually be? Well, it's going to be horrible inflation. And that's going to be where the money that's in your pocket today is going to buy less tomorrow, And you're going to recognize that, so you're going to go out and buy everything that you possibly can, and the shelves are going to be bare. If debt and deficit were the key to success, Zimbabwe would be the world center, followed by Venezuela. It doesn't work. This is a recipe for disaster. We've been somewhat talking about it for decades, on and off, but right now it's just mute. It's not front and center, and it should be on the front burner.
No, Governor Johnson,
unbelievably.
You are running for Senate in New Mexico. Right now, one poll has you at 16%. Your Democratic opponent has around 40%. And Senator Rand Paul has endorsed you and not the Republican who's running in the race. Do you think that you can narrow the gap in time for voting day?
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing this if there weren't the opportunity to actually win. And, of course, crisscrossing the state, it's actually been kind of fun. And what a gift to only have to run in a 3-month campaign as opposed to a couple years, stepping in really last minute and taking the place of the Libertarian nominee for Senate in New Mexico. So we got a late start, but nonetheless, I'm believing that this might actually succeed. I might actually be in the U.S. Senate. And then
you would be the swing vote.
Well, I might be the swing vote. That's also a possibility. I'd like to be on the Senate, but
can people in New Mexico handle that?
Budget Committee.
I would love to see you on the Senate Budget Committee with the giant pair of scissors that you can borrow from John Stossel. Governor Gary Johnson, best of luck with the rest of your campaign. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Kennedy.
Absolutely. Coming up, Nancy Pelosi now predicting a blue tsunami. Nancy says that's happening in just a few weeks. But should the House Minority Leader really be so optimistic? A new report suggests that that promised blue wave can end up costing voters a lot of money. The panel is here to break it all down after the break. Stay tuned. That's right. It's all bootylicious. Girl.
It is.
That's right. News alert coming up right now. Upcoming midterms. Listen to this. With less than 3 weeks to Election Day, Fox News releasing brand new polls tonight that show the top issues for voters, healthcare, and the economy. But it appears Democrat candidates are benefiting from all of the chaos. Here to break down the results, Fox Business Network's Susan Lee, the one and only.
I'm going to call it bootylicious Fox News poll. How about that?
Right.
So if the election were today, unfortunately, the House might flip for the Democrats.
Yeah.
Because taking a look at the Fox News poll, for those that will vote in their congressional districts, it looks like Democratic candidates are right now with the edge, 49%. Republican candidates, as you see, 42%. But hey, it didn't even change after the divisive, polarizing, and some would say really ugly Brett Kavanaugh nomination battle, right? So let's talk about the top issues. As you mentioned, top issue for voters right now is health care. What are you going to do about it? What about the cost? And what about my premiums going into that vote? So health care takes about 58% of voters, the top issue for them. And then the economy, how are they feeling? How big are their wallets? How secure do they feel in their job? 54% says it's probably the most important issue out there. And then what about President Trump himself? 51%. Third top issue.
Ooh.
Yeah. I remember when he goes out on these rallies, he says, you know, listen, a vote for the candidates is a vote for me. 51%. That's a 50-50
He says,
split.
I'm on the ballot. And there he is, right up there. Top 3 made the podium.
Now, I want to point out that the lowest topic on this list, the Mueller investigation. You hear about it over and over again in left-wing media. How much do voters care about it? Less than a third.
You know what's not even on the list?
What?
Climate change.
Well, it actually was on the list, just above of Mueller, but I didn't think you cared that much about it, so I didn't put it in there.
No one does.
Oh, all right.
I can't wait for it to be warm. Bikini weather. Yay.
And then ultimately, for voters, what about President Trump himself and his approval ratings? It actually lifted from September. So I guess voters were impressed that he actually stuck by his nominee, despite the fact that it was such an ugly
9 points
battle.
up from last year, almost not underwater. Susan Lee, brilliant analysis as always.
And bootylicious, you think?
That's right. And we will spin the good records anytime you're here.
Right. Awesome.
Loving every minute of it. Now, meantime, last night House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi was asked for a midterm forecast. She took the question quite literally and gave a weather report. Oh, Nance.
People ask me all over the country, is it a wave or is it a tsunami? And I said, well, in either case, it's little drops of water. And there are many of them. If the election were today, we would win the majority. I don't know how much water would be involved, but I know we would win the majority. waiver tsunami we'll see in 3 weeks.
Oh, mercy. Wow, what a gift. If Pelosi's predictions hold true, Democrats are likely to push for a repeal of the president's tax cuts. According to the Heritage Foundation, such a move could raise taxes in every single congressional district. So would a Dem victory be an economic disaster? Let me bring in tonight's panel from the National Taxpayers Union. Senior fellow Maddie Duppler is back, along with Right Turn Strategies President Chris Barron and former Ohio State Senator Capri Cafaro. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Maddie. Hey. I'm going to start with you with Nancy's very bold prediction. So let's talk about taxes a little bit, because people actually like lower taxes. Will Democrats be so bold as to undo those loving tax cuts?
Democrats have been that bold since the moment the tax cut was passed into law, saying the #1 priority for us is to repeal it as soon as we get power. Now, that gets a little more complicated as elections get closer. Now, you'll see last month, before the House left for its recess to go into campaign mode, we had another vote on the tax cuts to extend those individual cuts for Americans. And guess what? Democrats all of a sudden were a little bit more excited about that. In particular, Democrats who had to run statewide. Kristen Sinema in Arizona, who's got a whole host of other problems now as a result of her big mouth, but cares a lot about tax cuts, as well as Jackie Rosen, who's running statewide in Nevada. So it'll be interesting to see when Democrats, if they actually get the opportunity to control the agenda, keep their word on this, because they've certainly been talking a big game.
Yeah. I don't think that's the winning message. I don't think Democrats have quite found their lane. They should be focusing on healthcare more than taxes, because Republicans certainly don't have an answer for that, but they're not going to do that. When Nancy Pelosi's in charge, it's every day. It's just, it really is.
I mean, look, if Nancy Pelosi's in charge, she's going to make her members walk the plank over and over again, voting for stuff that's incredibly unpopular because, frankly, she just doesn't care. I mean, she didn't care about her majority when she had it before. She made her conservative and moderate Democrats take votes on all kinds of crazy things. You know,
we'll read it when we get it. Well, we don't know what's in it, but we'll read it someday.
She doesn't care. And by the way, like it's not brain surgery here. The fact is people like keeping more of their money. Running on a hey, we're going to raise your taxes. It just doesn't seem like a great thing.
Come on, man. Okay, so you don't have to be a libertarian to want to cut spending, but Democrats and Republicans, they're all allergic to it.
Look, I mean, this is how we ended up with, shutting the government down how many times? Because nobody is willing to give anything up. And now, we're hearing my side of the aisle, and understandably so, this whole thing about now they're sounding the alarm about what's going to happen to entitlements. If Republicans say, then, entitlements are on the chopping block and everyone's going to have a knapsack on a stick and they're not going to have health care and they're not going to have Social Security now. But here's the thing, and I always say this because I come from
state. Cut entitlements.
But here's the thing. You don't need to actually.
Grow a pair of scissors.
You can grow a pair of something. But either way, here's the deal. In Ohio, we were growing a pair of Buckeyes. And when you have a pair of Buckeyes, this is basically what happens. You can actually be efficient in your entitlements by doing things like pay for performance. So it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying, we're going to cut eligibility, we're going to cut benefits.
Don't throw the baby out. Baby's clean.
We hope.
In bathwater. All right, the race for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination is starting to heat up, and it's looking like a casting call for the next Sharknado. Well, with its collection of past their prime politicians and D-list news figures, former Vice President Joe Biden, he is the early favorite, but yesterday he said people have every right to be concerned about the fact that he's going to be 77 years young by the time primary season rolls around. California Senator Kamala Harris also has her eyes on the big White House. Rounding out the list is ambulance chaser to the stars Michael Avenatti, who's now filed paperwork with the Federal Election Committee. Avenatti continues to insist that his candidacy is not a joke. Should we tell him, or should we just let him be? You love that. Is he your favorite on the list?
He is. I'm going to write a check to Avenatti. I love him because everything he touches, he destroys. I mean, look, Stormy Daniels is now going to have to pay Trump's legal fees. Brett Kavanaugh is on the Supreme Court single-handedly because of Michael Avenatti. I hope he runs for president. I hope Democrats vote for him. What I love is that there were so many liberals who were like, I can't believe Republicans nominated a guy with no experience, reality TV star, billionaire, blah, blah, blah. And they're willing to get behind a guy, an ambulance chaser, who just showed up 7 months ago. 7 months ago. He just showed up. fell out of the sky several months ago.
I can't stand the guy, but I
Democrats are not going to forget Kavanaugh, and they're not going to forget Kavanaugh's role in that.
They definitely lay blame on him. But dude is serious. I mean, he's been in my hometown twice in the last 2 months at Democratic events.
Which is great, because the thing that I love most about 2020 is that it started in 2018. So while President Trump is out there campaigning for Republicans, he's up against this cast of characters. I can't believe you didn't have an Elizabeth Warren mentioned in there. What happened to her this week? Jim Messina, Obama's old campaign manager, said it best when he was like, we've got 3 weeks till a crucial midterm election, and every day we've now lost 3 media cycles talking about Elizabeth Warren and this stunt that she just pulled.
It was really off base. It made her look very, very petty. And again, it doesn't help her. The only person right now, I'm not a big fan of hers. I don't like where she stands on civil asset forfeiture. I have never been a big fan of her work as Secretary of State in California, or what she was Attorney General. Sorry. But Kamala Harris actually has a good strategy. She's the only one who has a strategy. Who's actually got a strategy.
Her strategy is to pick a seat over the party.
But if Cory Booker's in, how does this work? I mean, her Southern strategy is premised on her being the African American candidate who can campaign across the South.
Hates Cory Booker.
That's fine. If Cory Booker's in the race, it's very, very complicated.
She sees him as a very unserious person.
Yeah, but guess what? California has a lot more sway than New Jersey.
Than New Jersey does. I mean, look, and here's the thing: we got rid of superdelegates in the DNC. Because we got rid of superdelegates in the DNC, that actually is bad for guys like Joe Biden, and it could be game on for absolutely anybody.
There'll be no one to save you from Avenatti.
I know. You're out in the field.
And we know
between the sophists and seniors, it's going to be the most entertaining. It's going to make 2016 look like the Waltons. Thanks so much, Capri, Chris, and Matt. Good to see you all. Coming up, a new report says Robert Mueller may finally release some of his findings. So when's he going to drop the hammer? And will the report ever see the light of day? Andy McCarthy joins me with answers next. After 17 months of the so-called witch hunt, the Mueller investigation might finally be winding down. According to Bloomberg News, the special counsel is close to releasing that report on possible collusion and obstruction. But don't count on a November surprise. The findings won't come out until after the midterms, and there is a chance the report won't even be made public. That's a lot of hot malarkey. Contributor and former assistant U.S. Attorney Andy McCarthy is here. Welcome back, Andy.
Kennedy, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm very intrigued by this because we knew that Robert Mueller was going to lie dormant during this critical midterm run-up. And I have a feeling that he's going to resume work in his little Keebler factory right after the start of December, perhaps. What do you think?
Well, I don't think he's ever stopped working. I think what's gone on is all the stuff that can go on behind the scenes. I really do think he's trying to wind down the investigation, or it's being wound down, whether he wants it that way or not. I think they nailed down the Manafort business right before Labor Day. That really took off the table any pending indictments that they had. And what we've seen in the last few weeks is he's kind of drawing down staff-wise. There's 3 or 4 people who've left his staff to either go back to their old jobs or get new jobs.
With the Democratic Party.
He's transitioned some of the cases. Right. That's right. Well, do you think they ever stopped working for the Democratic Party? I guess that's the question.
Come on, man. They're all corrupt deep staters. They're all a bunch of cockroaches. I don't know if that's true, but sounds fun.
And they're angry. Apparently they're angry.
Very angry. Deep state cockroaches who just want to bring down a good man, Andy. But let's talk a little bit about Rod Rosenstein, because he gave this sweeping interview to the Wall Street Journal. What do you think people expected that he would say in public?
I'm sure they expected he was going to say the investigation was completely inappropriate and totally politicized. You know, obviously, he said it was an appropriate investigation, that it was done by the book. He's running it, so what else would he say?
Yeah.
Why
won't he talk to Congress?
Probably because Congress is looking into something he's uncomfortable with, which is the investigation in 2016. He's happy right now to talk about Mueller's investigation in 2017 because he can talk about these Russia indictments, which I think are really more in the nature of publicity stunts than charging instruments, because everybody knew no one was.
Is the president out of legal jeopardy?
No, he won't be out until until Mueller finally issues his report. But I think there's a very good chance that he'll end up that way.
Look at you, Andy McCarthy. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Guess what's coming up next? Topical Storm. My gift to you. Stay here. Elba is joining Taylor Swift in a film adaptation of the musical Cats. Elba's casting has some people scratching their heads, while Taylor's makes perfect sense, because when you get dumped as many times as she has, it's only a matter of time before you end up with a bunch of cats. All right, clean out the litter box, because this is the Topical Storm. I could do it all night. Topic number 1. Join me in the subway later. I will. There it is. Halloween is 2 weeks from tonight. Americans reportedly expected to spend $500 million on costumes this year for their pets. And the next day, they're going to spend another $200 million on therapy for their humiliated animals. Oh, look at these poor guys. The dog's like, come on, Mom, do you really need Instagram like that bad? Why can't I just stay home and bark at the door? Just take a picture of your own bikini bottoms, weirdo. And the cats are like, this Facebook post is exactly why I'm going to eat your face the second you die. Oh, this little fella's dressed as a cereal box. That's not a costume. That's littering. Lazy. Cute, though. He looks delicious. I wonder what happens when you soak him in milk. Topic number 2. Are we on the air? Oh, great. Let's head down to Pinky's West Side Bar in Charlotte. Why does that sound dirty? Customers were really throwing him back last night. Oh, no. This lovely couple got into an argument with the bartender, and that quickly escalated into a full-fledged Real Housewives episode. Look at all that booze go flying. All right, break it up before someone's husband gets deported to Italy. That's a Joe Giudice reference, yeah. But don't feel bad for him, because he just landed a role on the Real Prison Wives of Milan. Oh, Milano, buongiorno. Che brutto. The woman in the video was not charged, but the guy was busted for assault with a deadly weapon because he was wearing Axe body spray. You better get a good lawyer. It's real stinky in there. This stuff doubles as mace. That's what they use on the protesters in Portland. Topic number 3. Officials at the Oakland Zoo saved a man who climbed into the tiger pit for a selfie. I don't know why they saved him or why he did it, but let's be honest. Any adult who needs to be told to stay away from tigers, probably not worth saving. I obviously draw the line if he or she is mentally disturbed, but as far as we can tell, this is not a Kamala Harris supporter. He just hopped right over the fence, but lucky for him, the tiger didn't have enough Weight Watchers points to eat a stupid person. It's a good thing he didn't do it on the tiger's cheat day. True story, all tigers have cheat days. And if you don't believe me, ask his ex-wife, Elin. The man was pulled to safety, but the drama didn't end there because 2 lions escaped their enclosure. Luckily, the zookeepers were able to corral them using a tennis ball. Some sausages. Topic number 4. Oh, Sesame Street puppeteer Carol Spinney is calling it quits after 49 years. Spinney was famous for playing Big Bird, or as it's called in politically correct 2018, plus-sized bird, or big-boned bird. He also played Oscar, the emotionally challenged trash dweller. Sesame Street producers announced the news on Twitter, which is an interesting choice because kids aren't on Twitter, and any adult who follows Sesame Street isn't allowed near kids. We should probably have a count, keep track of any adult who clicked like. 1, 2, 3. Carol Kinney may be gone, but if you're still looking to watch a bunch of puppets, you can always turn on CNN. If you think Snuffleupagus is depressing, man, you haven't watched Chris Cuomo. Let's get after it. Snap into your Slim Jim, son. Topic number 5. You know what that means. Finally, police in Cedar Rapids, Iowa have caught a serial dine and dasher who allegedly left a dozen restaurants without paying. And we're talking about some of the most high-end restaurants in Iowa. Think Denny's, White Castle, Jack in the Box. This guy's ballin'. All right. First there was Hot Felon, now there's Hungry Felon. Tracy Haas became a local sensation for his penchant for running out of restaurants, which you absolutely cannot do unless you're a Republican being chased by Democrats. Several owners posted his photo online, and the next thing you know, he was eating free food, courtesy of the Iowa State penal system. Haas is now out on bail, and he even tracked down a waitress that he stiffed, and he took her out for drinks. Ah, here you go, I'm not paying for any of it, I'm gonna steal it. I'm just kidding. Dine and Dash guy doesn't drink beer. He likes Johnny Walker. Just met her. We'll be right back. Stay here. Instagram at Kennedy Nation, on Facebook, Kennedy FBN, email kennedyfbn@foxbusiness.com. Tomorrow night on the show, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz has answers. Kristen Solstice Anderson is here along with one of my favorites, Lawrence Jones. And of course, you will be here as well. I'm making pumpkin cheesecake, so just get yourself ready for that. Do an extra 20 on the treadmill. You'll thank me later. Bye.